Hello everyone and welcome back to Southern Wealth. I hope you guys are doing very well. If you do enjoy the content, please consider dropping that like and subscribe. As you guys know, it's the only thing that I ask. So, quite the spicy end of the day event, right? With Trump and Elon Musk publicly going at it, and quite aggressively. Now, a few things on the entire conflict, if you want to call it a conflict. I mean, it is a conflict now, but even from the start, which was about the big, beautiful bill. We've talked about this many times here in the channel, and it's actually been quite appropriate that this is unraveling the way it is. At its core, so as a matter of principle, if you want to look at it as from the point of view of being pure and rational, what Elon Musk is saying about there's too much spending, that the bill will lead to a lot of extra spending, etc. Look, I'm not going to pretend I read the whole thing. What I've seen was the following. It's going to add 2.4 trillion. So the big concern is it's going to lead to 2.4 trillion extra deficit over the next 10 years, which is around $240 billion per year. This is according to CBO. Now, CBO has been notorious for being wrong and overstating the negative impacts that are expected on certain of these things. So, for example, when first the tax cuts were approved back in 2017, it was predicting a huge drop in collectible tax revenue for the United States. So this was the prediction. What happened? The exact opposite. More taxes were collected than ever before because there were less ways to get away with deductions. You see, if your tax rate is 50%, but then you can deduct everything, your effective tax rate can drop to like 10%. So in the bracket, it will say 50, but what you're actually collecting is 10. So the CBO has been notoriously wrong in this type of predictions where it expects, this is going to double this and double the other, and then many times the effect is even the opposite. But let's say that that's going to be the case. Let's say it's going to increase to $240 billion per year. If you look at the latest tariff revenue of May, and May is an important month because most of the tariffs have been dropped by that time, and and it's pretty much only China left, right? And not even all of China's, like half of the items or something like that. The amount that was collected in tariff revenue was around $22 billion. So if you annualize that, so 22 times 10, you get to 220, plus 22, 242, plus 22, 260 something. So let's say that the tariff revenue will bring somewhere within 240 to 260 billion. That's it. That's your increased spending. It's been countered on the other side. So that's my point. Nobody's talking about the fact that the tariff revenue will counterweight a lot of this supposed increased spending. But going back to Elon Musk, I'm sure that bill is filled with garbage. Unfortunately, in politics, in order for you to get your way, so what is the key part? The key is if the tax cuts are not extended, then you're going to see the biggest tax rise in history for Americans by the end of the year. That's it. And politicians know it. So they will put all sorts of programs for their special groups because they know that bill has to be approved. There's no other way. Otherwise, they're not going to be elected in the midterms. Simple as that. So a lot of people take advantage of that position. Now, Elon Musk is a very rational man. He thinks, in my view, this is just my opinion, he thinks that the other politicians care about America as much as he does. I don't think they do. I think they care about their own interests. And unfortunately, sometimes you have to ally you have to go along with things that you don't like. For example, I'm going to give you this example of the World War II. The Americans aligned with Stalin. Not because Stalin was a great guy. In fact, between him and the other one in Germany, take your pick. Because Stalin actually killed more people, but, let's take that aside. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. In this case is, here's scenario A, which is terrible. Here is scenario B, which is much worse. Let me go for the terrible one. See, it's not, oh my God, this terrible scenario is great. No, that's not it. You have to pick. And Elon Musk, in principle, is right. Yes, there's too much spending by the government. Yes, there's too much borrowing of money. Unfortunately, this is the part we tie in here with the channel. We know that the debt cannot be repaid. We've passed the levels. So the debt divided by GDP is already well above 100%. That means that you cannot repay the debt and you cannot balance the book ever, regardless of who is in power. Remember what I said in the beginning a few months ago? This is not a Democrat, this is not a Kamala Harris or a Trump problem. This is a mathematical problem. You see, if they start repaying the debt and they cut spending, they suck liquidity out of the system. What happens when liquidity comes out? Asset prices go down. What is assets? Collateral. Collateral for what? Many debts. What happens to the debts if the collateral starts to go down? The debts start to turn sour. That's what it means. And as the debts start to turn sour, what happens? What happens is banks start to struggle. But in this mindset of not exploding the deficits and debts, you cannot bail them out. You have to let them go. But the issue is, what do they hold? Everyone's deposits and savings. So what's going to happen to that money? Because that money is not there. Don't forget, we have fractional reserve. Only 10% of the money is in the banks. So remember, in this mindset, you have to let the banks collapse. People will understand what a unsecured creditor means very quickly. You're going to find out that your money in the bank is not really your money. And everybody will go bankrupt, or a lot of people, or a huge amount of people are going to go bankrupt. Oh, and by the way, those social security benefits, not going to get them. They're not there. Uh-oh. Unemployment programs. What unemployment programs? They're not there. You see, this is where we end if we let this go. Besides that, of course, the dollar star is going to, in any case. But this is what happens if you let that game go like that. At the stage we are today, if the debt to GDP was 30%, sure, you can balance and repay the debts, there's no problem. Because the asset is 70, so your asset, your GDP, between the debt is only 30% of it. So you can deal with repaying 10% of it. You cannot do it at the levels we are today. The system is too much leveraged up. So you end up with one solution: growth. Find a way to grow out of this. AI, robotics, lower taxes, you name it. Now, you should still try to cut unnecessary spending. Of course. Nobody is arguing that no, you should just let that guy, the Graham guy, the guy that went to Ukraine, and he went there and he spent $400,000 in an hotel. That's not good. I'm not saying, just let it go. No, that's not the point. The point is, unfortunately, we are in a situation where we got to one option left: growing. That's it. Or you end up like Japan, a dead economy. Average 0% growth, average. There are more adult diapers being sold than baby diapers. That's your end game. That's where you're gonna end if you continue like this. But yeah, that's our option, is to make the bridge between. So you see, this all changed. This is why it's very stupid to look at, but this is in 1925. You need to understand, in 2008 things changed. The Fed and the central banks decided we are not going to let the system collapse. We're not going to get a Great Depression part 2. And maybe they were right. Because you see, the Great Depression, the first one, was instrumental for a certain gentleman with a mustache in Germany to be elected. Yes, he was elected in 1933. He was not there by force. People voted him in. And for 6 years, they thought he was a genius and the savior of the country. And look what happened afterwards. But you can trace that election, because that party was finished. That party had no credibility until the Great Depression leads into hyperinflation in Germany. You see my point? So these things are, you have very unintended consequences across the planet when you meddle with these things. Like when people come with all these, oh yeah, sure, just let it go bankrupt, who cares? Yeah, you're going to care if millions of people are going to find out that the money they have in the bank means zero. They're going to find out, you're going to see how much they care. And then you can have all the gold and all the things in the world accumulated. But if a group of people come with certain weapons to your house, you're going to find out also very quickly that you've been amassing gold for the biggest dog in the yard. So my point here is these things are very complex. So every time the people come with very simple solutions, it always makes me laugh, because a lot of things have unintended consequences which are very, very dramatic. So at heart, but they see Elon Musk looks at it from a rational perspective. Yes, you should cut spending. Yes, you should try to do something to repay the debt. I get it. Yes. Unfortunately, we are past that. And if the Democrats win the midterms, you can bet that he's going to get impeached and he won't be able to do anything again. So it's going to be back and forth with the courts again. That's what's going to happen. So yeah, this is unfortunate. Unfortunately, is the situation that you have. Maybe I'll go here a little bit on a tangent. The ideal scenario is a lot of political freedom and a lot of economic freedom. That was pretty much the situation of the United States in the 19th and early part of the 20th century. What is the problem with this? If you have this setup, you start doing very, very well. So what's the incentive of politicians? Promise you things for free. But how do they promise things for free? By taking some of your freedom. Now, you see, your political freedom is in the same place, but your economic freedom is slowly going away as the government intervenes to give free things to a group of people to be elected. And they will do this, and the government will have more power, so you'll also start to lose some political freedom, and more economic freedom gets lost, and more political freedom gets lost, and you play this, and you play this, and you play this, until something so dramatic happens that you end up losing all your economic freedom and your political freedom. The solution to this is to have, this is why, look at what's happening in Europe, in terms of controls over people, banning political parties, this is all, I hate to use this word, but this is all normal. It's just human nature. Then you have dictatorships that work very well, but it requires extreme discipline. So, for example, the UAE. The UAE, you have no political freedom at all. But you do have a lot of economic freedom. You don't pay taxes. It's very easy to do business. If you are competent, you'll be able to build a very successful life. And the government kind of gives the directions of the country. But the individuals make it. That's the key. Now, what is the problem with this situation is that the governments need to be extremely disciplined to not stampede the financial freedom and economic freedom, even when things are not going very well, because there's going to be periods where things are not going very well. And the incentive for dictatorships or for the government to step into the economy is very, very big. But it's possible. I mean, you look at Singapore. Singapore is practically a dictatorship. It's the same party since 1965. And there's all sorts of controls to be opposition party. Basically, if you want to run, it's very, very hard. The access to financial support to be able to run is very complicated. The media is pretty much all within the power of the current government. So, I mean, yes, people can go and vote, but the elections, in the Soviet Union, you could also vote, right? I mean, it's a bit like that. Yet, it's a country that works very, very well. So, what I'm trying to point here, I'm not making judgments of value. I'm just saying how these things are not very easy to comprehend. And of course, Elon Musk is a genius. You can see. Because I'm also not going to play the game now that Elon Musk is an idiot, or he's not an idiot. Now, what we've seen, I wanted to talk about something very importantly. So in case you haven't paid attention, Pump Fund is going to drop a token. And of course, crypto banders all over it. And he loves it since he got the allocation. But there's a deeper problem with YouTubers in general. I just saw a video today that said, Michael Burry opens a short and he predicts a massive financial crisis. And then they say, Michael Burry, the man who predicted 2008. Now, the reason why they put these things in the titles is because people know Michael Burry from the movie, the Big Short, in which he correctly predicted the downfall of the US real estate market and the position ahead of everyone else, and he was very, very successful. There are two lessons from that movie. Number one, look how dangerous options and leverage are. He was right. The whole thing collapsed, but he barely made it through the finish line because there was a point in which the fund that he was representing almost went belly up because of the collateral that was needed for the leverage positions. So may that be a lesson. You can be completely right and know the specific way that something's going to happen. But with leverage, you can still lose everything because the timing is just not ideal. It's like when people think about everyone that has ever longed Bitcoin with leverage. I think Bitcoin will eventually get to $1 million. And these people will not get there because they got liquidated in the journey. Think about it. Think how crazy that is. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is very simple. Is because the reason why other YouTubers put this in the titles is because, number one, they get views. Number two, they can then say, hey, if you want to make money on the downfall of the markets, just buy my course and my private trades and my all of this, and you'll know how to make money shorting the market. That's the idea, is to enrich themselves. You see, what is the problem with this? They never give you the context. Michael Burry is shorting heavily the market, and he is predicting a downfall like never seen before. Just like he's been doing in the last 12 years. Now, this is the context. He predicts the downfall of everything every year. Sometimes more than once a year. Say that as well. You see, if they say that, then they cannot sell you the course at the end. You see what I mean? So they omit that part. But say it. It's the same thing with Warren Buffett is in record levels of cash. Just like he was in 2022. And just like he was in 2023. And what happened in 2023, 2024? The stock market went up 50%. He missed it. So when you say Warren Buffett is hoarding record amounts of cash, and he was also doing that in 2022, and then 2023 was amazing. And he was also doing that in 2023, and then 2024 was amazing. Tell the full story. It's important. Now, I think all of these things, obviously, that are happening right now are quite damaging for the reputation I don't like to see the president, threatening to basically cut contracts with Elon Musk. Elon Musk has contracts with the government because what he does is actually very important. God knows where the Ukrainians would be without Starlink. SpaceX is the entire US space program at this point. I don't think we should be punishing individuals for, being, even if they're being aggressive towards the existing administration. I'm not in favor, and I don't condone going after private entrepreneurs for this kind of stuff. That's my view. Then, of course, Elon Musk said that Trump is in the Epstein files, and that's the big bomb. Is he? I don't know. Is it weird that the files have not been released? Yes. There were a lot of people speculating that that was the case. Yes. Is it really the case? I don't know. I don't think it's good for the reputation of the US, but unfortunately, and here is the really sad part, we live in 6-minute attention span economies and worlds. If in 3 months a lot of trade deals have been signed, stock market is at new all-time highs. By the way, stock market continues to be driven by liquidity. These things are like short-term noise, but matters very little. We were above $6,000 today on the S&P. And once again, we have many more reasons today to be down than what we had in, let's say, March. So it is what it is. It just shows that we are all driven by liquidity at the end of the day, and that, my friends, is spiking like crazy. It's at all-time highs in the US as well, despite the Fed being, the ECB just cut rates again, and the ECB balance sheet is almost as big as the Fed's balance sheet, and I mean the job market is slowing down quite aggressively, and inflation keeps on going down. Even now in Trueflation, inflation is like 1.8%. I mean, I think the next CPI will come out probably, if not at 2, very close to it, and then it's going to be very hard for the Fed to justify not cutting rates. So I think that's also coming. But, I hope, unfortunately, we live in a society that pays attention for 5 minutes. This is all very nice. Probably in 2 weeks, nobody remembers. Particularly if some good things start happening, nobody remembers of this. I don't know. I hope that he's not in the files. The same way that I would hope that Biden or Gavin Newsom or anybody else on the Democrats would not be in those files. Because being in those files is obviously terrible. There's no other way around it, particularly if you are the president of the United States. So, I guess we are here watching the wrestling of American politics, and we just need to wait for the business cycle to really catch up, and we really need to wait for liquidity to find its way through the system, and also for some of these matters to be resolved. And with that, thank you very much for your support, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.